Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. I realized that was very loud, so I apologize. Welcome back to episode 11. And I would like to firsthand apologize about the audio in the last episode.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we didn't realize that there was an issue with it until right before, until we edited the episode, basically, and we didn't really have time to re-record it. So sometimes these things just happen. We're still working with kind of a very basic setup. Yeah.
So
but
thank you, David, for bringing that to our attention. That was very cool of you.
A couple of updates, though. We now have a Revzilla affiliate links.
We do.
In our Instagram and as well as on our episode descriptions and podcast descriptions. So if you want to help out the podcast and you need to buy some motorcycle gear, feel free to use our link to get your gear, and we'll get a little bit of a kickback from it.
Yeah.
So it'll help us
get better
grow
equipment.
the show, get better equipment, get a more proper setup eventually, and bring you guys even better content. So yeah, if you need new gear, use our link.
Speaking of like a setup too, like I'm moving soon, so we'll have like a dedicated recording spot. That's not just going to be a corner.
Yeah, so we'll make a few improvements, and hopefully our audio doesn't crap out on this episode because we already started rolling and we won't stop until we're done.
Yep.
Anyways, thank you again so much for tuning in and welcome back. And like I said, this is episode 11, and today we are going to be talking about the history of motocross. Now, there is a reason why we decided to cover this topic today.
Yeah, it's Triumph they've been teasing us for a while now about entering the motocross world. And just this last week, they've announced that they're having a video series slowly revealing this new bike that's going to be to compete in these motocross championships. There's not a lot of information out there right now about it. They just barely released video clips of the brand new chassis.
Yeah, the frame.
So it's but Triumph they have been very clear that they do want this to be a competition winning bike.
Yeah.
So
and we just watched a little video on the frame. It does look like it's it's going to cradle the engine, so it's not like a lot of street bikes and stuff where the engine acts as part of the support and the frame of the bike. This is going to actually cradle the engine, which is supposed to allow more durability and stuff because that bike's going to be hitting the ground a lot and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very curious and excited to see what they come out with, and hopefully it's not too much longer. They'll be happy to talk about on the podcast when they finally reveal it.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Brand new chassis. It's built from the ground up.
Brand new bike. We don't even know the engine specs yet or anything else. So I'm very curious to see what kind of engine it's going to have. Whether it's going to be 2-stroke or 4-stroke, and the size of the engine and stuff. But what gets me more excited is if this is kind of a more like a dirt bike, motocross bike from Triumph. I'm kind of hoping that they would use the similar either chassis or engine and stuff and bring over a street legal dual sport, preferably at a lower price, because it'd be really cool to have a Triumph dual sport that's super fairly lightweight, fairly simple, pretty durable, or at least easy to fix with plastic parts instead of metal and things like that.
Yeah,
because I think that would be awesome to complement my Tiger to take on some narrower roads or something that
something I could drop and not break
exactly
the bank over it. Hopefully.
So we'll keep an eye on that and see how it is and see what Triumph brings out, because I'm very excited about it. It's always fun to see a totally completely new motorcycle.
Yeah,
and Triumph just keeps on surprising us this year, because we just had the Scrambler 400 and the Street 400 just a couple of weeks ago. So
I just noticed Triumph is they're not being shy about what they want it to do. It's we're doing this because we want to win championships, and so it's they have that in mind, and they're just again, they're not taking somebody else's bike and tweaking it. This is brand new. Yeah,
so this is super exciting. So that's what brings us to today's topic of the history of motocross. We thought it'd be kind of interesting to look into it, to check it out, and like I said, if you want to support us through our little affiliate link, maybe we can take ourselves to a motocross race and watch it firsthand, because I've never been to one.
I've never been to one, but before we start, I would say I know basically nothing about dirt bikes and motocross. my first motorcycle experience was on a dirt bike. I was at middle school, like 6th or 7th grade. I tried out this club because motorcycles are cool.
Yeah.
I had no experience with it otherwise. They moved kind of quick because there were kids who were, experienced in it or had been in this club for a while.
Yeah.
So I tried it out, and like they put me on way too big of a bike. It was absolutely terrifying, and I didn't touch motorcycles or dirt bikes again until I started riding in 2020 from that experience. But no, it seems intense. It seems cool. So
yeah, I mean, I'm
braver now, so maybe I'll try it again.
I don't know if I would ever try like motocross and stuff, but I would love to have like
single track,
a very simple like dual sport bike to hit some single tracks up in the mountains and stuff, because it looks like it's a lot of fun. And those bikes, like I remember like one time we were both at Eurosports Utah, and they had that Husky.
Oh yeah,
it was like one of their bigger bikes, but I remember like just sitting on it and like taking off the kickstand. It felt like a feather. Yeah, it felt like picking up a bicycle, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is so lightweight. I would love to ride this around because it's just so. Yeah, it just feels like so easy to do compared to like big adventure bikes and stuff that we have.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Like, it's like I always thought like getting into it, it's like, I'm gonna get an ADV or this big scrambler because it's like, heavy, whatever, I can handle it, and then we try something, like, it's like weight is actually pretty a considerable thing and when it comes to this.
Yeah, and if you get good at riding something lightweight, then you can translate it to riding something heavier much better than trying to learn on a heavier bike. And we've both done like basic and simple off-roading and stuff on our bikes, but nothing
like fire roads, but
nothing crazy intense. And you definitely feel the weight and stuff, especially if you need to like turn them around, take them off the kickstand, just even like parking them, like wheeling them backwards if you need to and stuff. So it'd be cool. It'd be cool for Triumph to release a dual sport with following their motocross bikes. And I also don't have like crazy amount of experience riding dirt bikes or even know too much about them, other than that they have 2-stroke bikes, they have 4-stroke bikes, and basically the difference between the two is how the cylinders work and how they produce the power and stuff. 2-stroke engines are generally simpler and kind of easier to maintain. They can produce more power and things like that, but they're also not as efficient, not as clean, and things. Most of your street bikes and stuff are going to be, or pretty much any street legal bike is going to be 4-stroke now.
Right.
But there's 4-stroke dirt bikes and stuff that are easier to maintain and manage as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I think we should jump into our main topic. And just before we start, I just wanted to let you know our sources for this information. So first one was from redbull.com. They had like a whole page on the history of motocross, which was pretty informative. Second was the history of motocross from Motorsport. The other one was brief history of motocross racing from Cornmark and Insurance. And
that's over in the UK.
Oh, so, nice. Okay. And then the fourth source was the American Motorcycle Association Motorcycle Museum Hall of Fame. And those are our sources. So if you want to check them out yourself and read upon it or read up even more on it, that's where you can go find them. Anyways, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just start with the very beginning of it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I felt a little bit of pride in this first fact, having a scrambler. So just like, ooh,
I saw
scramblers. So so like the motocross, basically, it's pretty much universally agreed that motocross started in the UK in the early 1900s. And their first races, they were called scrambles, and the first official scramble was in Camberley, Surrey, in 1924. And so it's just been going from there. And so like I think the word scrambler even comes from like a term that somebody used when they were an announcer was describing it. It's like it's going to be a scramble of a time.
Yeah.
So that was like the birth start of like motocross races,
which is kind of cool because like when I was reading through these notes and stuff, I was like, okay, scrambler. That's why the bikes are called like scramblers? And my first thought that popped into my head is just watching these guys on motorcycles like try to scramble over obstacles and things like that, just kind of like weaving their bike in and out. And I'm just like, okay, I can see that. That makes sense. That makes sense in my head.
Yeah, and if anybody does go read those articles that we've mentioned, I've noticed like from from there, it started in the UK, spread throughout Europe. It didn't come over till the US. In these articles, there's mixing dates.
There
on
are,
when it
yeah.
was. Like,
There are some.
Yeah.
There is some kind of. It's not quite like the set year or date,
or even like. I wouldn't even say like universally agreed on who the person was, but like there are notable names that are.
Yeah. So the kind of like the most agreed on story. So the sport motocross was officially sanctioned in the U.S. in 1959 by the American Motorcyclist Association, and but there's also some kind of dispute where it didn't really kick in to like mainstream or anything until about the 70s, and that's where it kind of really started taking off.
Yeah,
here in the States.
And I think like one of the earliest dates I saw reading through the article was like even as early as like 1955 or 59.
Yeah,
So
so kind of like, so one of the notable figures in American motocross is Edison Dye, and Edison Dye, he was a I think a mechanic, or not a mechanic. He was a manager of a production facility during World War II, managing a bunch of different employees and stuff. So he kind of had expertise in like building these things and kind of managing a lot of people.
He'd go throughout Europe too.
Yeah, after the war, he traveled throughout Europe and stuff, and then came across these scrambles, these races and things.
He came across motocross.
Yeah, he came across motocross, and thought that it would be kind of a cool idea to to bring that to the States. And on the Red Bull article, they kind of argued like, he thought it was cool. It'd be cool to bring that over to the States. But they also said there's been kind of like allegedly that one of the reasons he did it is he got a job working for Husqvarna over in Europe. And he really liked their motorcycles. And he thought it would be a good idea to bring a few bikes over to the US and start selling them here. And that was kind of like alleged sort of ulterior motive that he had for starting this or bringing the sport to the US, so you can also kind of help sell these bikes.
So I read that and I was like, okay, like it doesn't even seem like an anterior motive to me, because it was like it's
a
like
business plan.
It's a business plan, yeah. And it's like he saw a market that Americans were probably gonna love, and he was right. So it's like what would have been the motive, if he likes motocross and he wants to bring it over, whether it's a business or not, So like, no, I think, so I mean, here we are now.
Yeah.
It's great.
And in 1966, Dye showed like Americans what basically motocross bikes were capable of, what they were capable of doing, what they were like able to do, the kind of sport that, or the kind of activity like you can do with them. So basically the motocross. And what he did was he brought over a world champion named Torsten Hallman, who basically just ran circles around any of the American competitors in it. And that was kind of the case for a long time, because it was a very new thing to Americans, while the Europeans have been doing it for basically the past like almost 40 years or so, kind of doing this kind of sport. So a lot of the European riders that came over to US, they basically just dominated any of the competition and stuff.
Well, I remember hearing too, I couldn't find it like researching it to like anything that I would feel like I'd want to like necessarily cite, but I also know like over in America too, like before all this happened, like it was like directly after World War II and into the 50s, that a lot of people were customizing like Harley Davidsons to like go off-road and things like that.
That's true, yeah.
So
sorry, I mean to interrupt, but now that you mentioned it, I just remember like while like motocross wasn't really a big thing in US, flat track racing was. So, and that's kind of a dirt racing and stuff in the circle. And I guess Americans love racing in circles.
Yeah, we do. Well, it just and flat track just seems like suicide to me. It's crazy.
It looks absolutely terrible. But motocross looks pretty scary too. So these, and while I was doing research for this, I actually watched this. Found this a video on YouTube. It was called "The History of Motocross," and it's just a bunch of clips from different eras, and it's crazy how those tracks, there's like some tracks that are like the width of a highway down to like anything that's like barely two bikes can fit across, and they just have these like jumps and whoops and random obstacles, and you see these guys like trying to weave in and out between one another. It's absolutely terrifying.
I just had a thought in all this research. We're not even mentioning like Evel Knievel. Like, was he ever on a dirt bike, or because he did like some crazy motorcycle stunts?
I don't know, but that's something that we should maybe save for a future episode. And,
like, he did some crazy stuff with bikes.
Bit. Yeah, he did.
Like, I would imagine he would have had to use like a dirt bike or a modified bike to.
Oh, definitely modified, but yeah, I'm actually not quite sure, and I didn't even think of looking.
I didn't even think of it
till
till just now, until you mentioned that. Yeah. So it's the different eras.
So Edison, like we said, he brought over a bunch of Huskies over to US, and the bike gained popularity extremely quick. That's why even now you see so many, like Husqvarna being a very popular bike in motocross, and also like dual sports and dirt bikes and stuff. You see a lot of Huskies around, along with like KTM and stuff, because they're kind of known for being very good bikes, especially off-road. And you can see that especially with like KTM, they translate a lot of that pedigree from their off-road bikes onto their adventure bikes and stuff, because I consistently hear like the KTM Adventures, they're great off-road. Yeah. Like one of the best adventure bikes you can take off-road, just because they're so well balanced, low center of gravity, and they're just made for that kind of riding versus more like on-the-road riding. But so Edison, he brought over the Husky COS. He sold just 100 in his first year of selling them here, 500 the next year, and well into year 3 he sold over 1,000 of them. So it's basically just kind of multiplying up and up.
Seemed like it paid off.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how motocross got started in the United States. Is before that it was just kind of racing here and there, and nothing much between flat track racing and road racing and things like that. But there wasn't much going on as in something that's like a big spectator sport that motocross is now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it got started, but then it quickly grew into this nationwide sport with various participants. And one of the biggest things is that it was a pretty accessible sport. Like you basically just needed a dirt bike, and you can like start off at your local track and sign up for a race, and go for it, as long as you have as long as you have the bike and the gear, and they think you can ride. Then it didn't matter which what was your skill level and how old you were and stuff. You can go out and ride. Hell, even little kids ride out on like tiny little dirt bikes and do all those little jumps and things like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and well, it's like and there's especially like way back then. There's gonna be tons of like rural and open terrain, and you could just you could just disappear on one of those things, I bet, and just
pretty much.
It just So it seems like a great a great thing to bring to like those areas where it's just like, what else is there to do?
And I would imagine it's not even that hard to like really build a motocross track.
Yeah,
I mean it's just
tools and
equipment. It's just like you clear some ground, make a little track, pile it on some dirt to make some jumps and some whoops and stuff, and then
it's probably not very complicated, but it sounds like a lot of manual labor, which I don't want to do that. But
no, I don't want to do that. But if you have some machinery or something, maybe you could do it, or just find like a hilly area that could work as well.
Well, down in Utah County, like you go out far enough west, you can see people with like large properties, and some of them will have like in their yard like little dirt bike tracks.
Yeah, exactly, and stuff. So I can imagine why this kind of took off, especially here in the States, is because we have a lot of open space even now, and it's it's something that you can make in your backyard and to enjoy.
Yeah.
So before Edison died, brought over, kind of like kickstarted this whole motocross thing, the American Motorcycle Association sanctioned about only 15 races per year, which is like nothing. In the 70s, there were hundreds of races happening annually, and the 1970s was kind of considered the golden era of motocross in the U.S., which, like I said, made motocross accessible to people of all ages and various skill levels and things like that. However, European riders still continue to dominate a lot of the races here in the States.
No, it's probably like the same like with any sort of Moto GP or sport bike race, and but we're not quite there yet. It seems. No. But no, that's my notes mixed up a little bit there. Well, you look at like the 70s and early 80s too, like dirt bikes were all throughout like media, like movies and like clips and stuff, and
they were like the cool thing to have, basically.
Yeah, the bad boys had those.
And this was even like before like a lot of Japanese bikes and things like that started making their way over to US, even a lot of European bikes and stuff, because pretty much like Harley, Indian, Victory, all these American brands dominated the the American motorcycle market.
Yeah.
Until
oh man.
Until Honda basically brought their little tiny bike, and then
I bet
Japanese bikes started coming in here.
Yeah, I can't imagine like the boom that would have came in like with Honda picking up and like all those Japanese bikes when they did come over to America for dirt bike motocross. I keep using them interchangeably.
Yeah.
So, because those ones came in, those ones were really popular when they hit the U.S. market. Like just those bikes in general, that brand is like affordability. Mass production
compared to like Harley bikes and stuff. And I remember like I believe it was Fortnite. Fortnite, the Canadian, the YouTube channel. He had a really good video on the history of Harley Davidson, and basically how they went from being the top American manufacturer of motorcycles to almost going away here, like completely like not really losing their customer base, but not really expanding to newer markets or attracting new customers. And part of that was because they were getting pricier, expensive, they were heavy, and Honda comes out with this like small little bike that they advertise for basically like, hey, anyone can ride this to work or to get groceries and things like that. And people were like, hey, you know what? I can do that.
And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Nope.
So, I mean, back then, now they do.
Yeah.
Everything does now.
Everything does. But yeah, so because motocross started getting more and more popular here in the States, the AMA enacted the American Motocross Championship, which is also known as the AMA Motocross Nationals for U.S. riders. And the first race was held at the LA Coliseum. And the series started off with using two.
That was the first. I just want to clarify that was the first like stadium race, like in a stadium.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they started out with 250cc bikes and 500cc bikes or classes, but then also later on added a 125cc class as well. But also this is kind of where Edison Dye kind of like fell off the radar and according to one of the articles I read, I think it was the one from either either History of Motocross or from the Red Bull one, but there was basically a race event in 1974 that was kind of like on the fence of being canceled due to inclement weather, which hasn't really happened before, but he decided to and he was kind of like the sponsor of this event. He decided to cancel it because of the inclement weather, but allegedly it was allegedly part of it was like in order to just save money and stuff like that. So like not to sponsor the event. And after that, he was kind of basically forced out or shunned out of being involved in American motocross.
Maybe just got like the reputation of it's like, well, we can't rely on your sponsorship because if you're going to I don't know. It
was basically something along those lines.
I don't know about how the bikes were back then, but nowadays I see dirt bikes doing some crazy stuff in mud.
Oh yeah, and back then it wasn't even like it was something that they did regardless whether it was like whether rain or shine, they would just go for it. It's like, okay, well, it's muddy, it's dirty, that's okay, that's not a problem,
right?
And or anything like that. So and then past the 1970s, the sport kind of just continued to progress and get more and more popular, and now we hear about it all the time, and there's plenty of different like national, local championships and races and things like that that people participate in.
So I guess before we get into like modern motocross and dirt bikes, for someone like me who doesn't know, like what are our size differences in motors and these dirt bikes? Like what the engine types and like what, like obviously bigger bikes are probably faster.
Yeah.
But like, so how would you describe those? I just want to I didn't want to throw you a curveball, but like, just like, so we can like explain like the bikes a little bit more before we get into modern.
Yeah. So it's separated into three different, or now it went to three classes. Now there's two classes again of bikes, but basically there were 250cc bikes and 500cc bikes, and those are two different classes that could participate in it. And they used to be pretty much all two strokes, and then they added a 125cc class for like smaller bikes as well.
Okay.
And that's basically was the standard until about 2006. So for the next like 30 years, those were the two classes that could participate. And I didn't really see any information on how people kind of like determine which bike and stuff they're going to ride.
Yeah.
But obviously like 500 won't compete against a 250 because that would,
well, and we're painting with a broad brush. Like if you want like some specific details, you need to talk to a motocross expert, dirt bike expert, right? So
this is just kind of like a brief history overview of the history that we were able to kind of like find online.
But one note I noted in here that, or I saw that you made in here that stuck out to me, was like when we talk about like emissions and cleaner burning fuel and all that stuff before. Well, right here it says they've had to introduce four-stroke engines.
Yeah. And so in the 2000s, that's basically what they had to almost. We're kind of like forced to do due to regulations. So if there's still like two-stroke dirt bikes available, and you can still get them. Yeah. In plenty of places, but for a lot of like official registered things, it's going to be mostly four strokes now. Yeah. But during the growth, like I said, the pretty much Europeans continued to dominate the motocross championships. They kept winning and winning and winning and stuff, and it was kind of hard for American competitors, American racers, to kind of keep up with them. But there is a few notable names of Americans that have participated, and one of them was Gary Jones, and he won the first of 3 championships. Oh yeah. He was his first of 3 championships in the 250cc class, and basically a runner-up in the 500cc class in 1972, and finished the first season more than the runner-up. So
go him.
Yeah, go him. And let's see.
No, there was what was crazy is I used to know some dirt bike names, like, or motocross names. But yeah, it just throws me off, like how wild it is. Like,
yeah, and it's been around, and like it's been around for a long time. And if you watch the clips of them racing online and stuff, those guys are like ballsy. They're neck and neck with other people. There's dirt and mud and everything like flying all around them. Yeah, they're like going over these jumps like right next to another person. I'm like, I don't know how you all riding without hitting one another and stuff, or like bumping into each other
when
back and forth.
When you do see like a dirt bike motocross accident, like it's bad.
It is usually bad. And there's been like I've seen some pretty gnarly ones, and I'm just like, oof, that it looks scary, dangerous, but also it looks like it'd be a lot of fun if you know what you're doing and properly doing it.
Well, I was talking to you too, like with like the gear that they wear, and like about this, I mentioned it earlier this week, is like if I was to do some more off-roading to try it out more, I want to get some of their braces, their knee braces that they have. They have like bouncing braces that like help support your legs while you're standing on the pegs, and
I've seen like most like dirt bike riders and stuff, they will be wearing like they got very, very rigid boots, knee braces, knee armor, but also instead of wearing like they're not usually wearing a lot of abrasion resistant stuff, because if you fall, it's not going to be at crazy high speeds and not sliding along along pavement. Yeah, but they will wear the body armor, like all the impact on chest, back, the neck brace. Also like elbows and things like that.
Well, that stuff's like cinched down too. It's like directly on their body, so that armor's not moving.
Yeah, it's not moving, and then usually just like a light jersey over it, because it looks like a very intense sport. Like the machine is still kind of like doing a lot of the work, but you got to put in a lot of effort and a lot of work to control that machine. Yeah,
more anecdotal stuff too. I remember like back in college, I took like a public speaking course, and one of the guys in the class, he gave like a public speech about motocross and its health benefits, because he was a motocross racer. Okay. And he's like, you got to be in shape. Like it breaks a sweat. You're sore every day after, because it's a lot of leg work. Bet. And so it's just like, it's not like a light thing to get into competitively. Even single track is gonna like wipe you out.
Yeah, I believe that. Heck, even riding my Tiger off road, like you can really start to feel in your legs and arms and stuff after a while, because it does take a lot more effort.
You get sweaty.
Yeah, you get very sweaty. It's not It's not an easy or light activity to do by any means.
No.
But it is a lot of fun to go off road. During the 90s, though, motocross, like I said, it continued to get popular, and they actually added in 1993 they had a women's motocross. Added a women's motocross in 1996, and that was won by Shelley Kahn. And in 2000, Jessica Patterson won her first of 7 World Motocross Championships, including four straight wins from 2004 to 2007, which is pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
It's kind of cool that they have a women's motocross division as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't see if that's like still the case or it's kind of like mixed in together, but I would imagine it's probably something there.
Yeah.
But then moving into the 2000, kind of like the modern times. So the classes kind of shifted a little bit. The 250cc class was changed to the MC class, and 125cc was changed to motocross lights or MX lights class.
Yeah.
And in 2009, the MX class became the 450cc class, and the MX lights became the new 250cc class. So it kind of bounced to, having 3 classes, and then or having just 2, when going up to 3, and now it's kind of back down to 2 classes of motocross. Right. And one of the reasons for this rule change is because of the tiny emissions regulations and stuff. So they had to basically start allowing 4-stroke engines and stuff, which kind of reduced the power band and stuff of the motorcycles and stuff, but also made them a lot cleaner. One of the most go ahead.
I'll save it for after because I just had a thought, but we'll go for that one after.
One of the interesting things that I did read, like the modern times, these bikes, I mean, they started off from going like, they were always like motocross and dirt bikes and stuff and flat track bikes and stuff and things like that, but they basically were not much different from street bikes. Maybe they had like a little bit beefier suspension, knobbier tires and things like that, kind of a little bit more durable, extra protection added. But over the years, as the sport advanced and as like motocross bikes and dirt bikes got better, a lot of that tech from like more expensive bikes and road going models, things like that, trickled into dirt bikes. And so you got like better suspension, higher suspension. You got disc brakes,
fuel injection,
you got fuel injection, and things like that, which allowed those bikes to kind of tackle, to not only be faster but also tackle bigger obstacles. And in one of the articles that I read, it basically said that one of the biggest things was the suspension, because it basically allowed you to do bigger jumps, take the whoops at a higher speed and things like that before bottoming out.
And those things are
a lot more durable.
If you've ever been up next to a dirt bike, like that suspension is chunky. It's big.
Yeah, not only is it fat, but it's also long. You're basically going from like up from the top of the frame like down to the wheel and stuff. It has a lot of suspension travel, especially when there's like more top end dirt bikes and stuff that cost as much as a street bike.
It's
pretty much the whole front end is just like these 2 giant
shocks. They have like those like supercross ones that don't even have like a seat, like they're just like
trials bikes.
Those are like so you can get that's
like a whole other world of dirt bikes, like the trial bikes and stuff, which could also make a good episode in the future as well.
Those are just like a whole different subset, like no seat, like this is all gas, no brakes, like it seems like you can't even sit.
And in case you're curious like about the difference between all of these, so like the motocross is racing around like a course, so it's not an open, it's not like out in the wild or anything like that. It is a closed circuit course, several laps, with like jumps and whoops and things and obstacles in between, and people basically race in laps, and whoever comes in first.
And it's not a rally; it's a race.
It's a race. It's done in a day. Or a few hours and stuff, and whoever comes first basically wins so many points, and then as they keep winning, depending which positions they take throughout the championship, they'll earn a certain amount of points, and then whoever has the most amount of points in the end basically wins a championship. And that's opposed to things like, and this is just one of the many motocross or one of the many dirt bike kind of like races there are. One of the other more notable ones is rallycross and rally racing, and that is a whole other there's a whole other beast, and which would also make a pretty good episode probably.
Yeah.
And rallies basically you're starting at one point, you're traveling to another point over
A long
several
distance. Yeah.
like hundreds of miles from point A to point B with various stations in between.
Yeah.
And it's usually a multi-day event to do that. And you have to be able to like fix your bike in the field, survive out in the field and things like that, because you're traveling through crazy remote areas.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different beast compared to this. It's not really like, I don't think it's as big of a spectator sport, especially here in the US, rally is, but it is a very well-known worldwide sport.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of rallies, they don't even, it's not just bikes racing. There's like side-by-sides and like buggies and things like that too. So
there's like the Mexican Baja,
Baja.
like the Scrambler competed in, and there's like somebody who took their Tiger through that one after extensive modifications.
Yeah. Or like the most notable one, the Dakar rally in the world.
The Dakar rally.
But that's a topic for a different episode. So like you mentioned though, like dirt bikes are involved in many different activities, and motocross is just one of the most popular and one of the biggest activities.
And if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, the dual sport was born from motocross, from a dirt bike.
Basically, yeah. I mean, most dual sport bikes are basically street legal dirt bikes.
Yeah, they have a little bit more weight because they got some tech or something in them,
Yeah, they'll have things like ABS, because that's pretty much a requirement on especially European bikes.
Yeah.
Or over
Emission
in Europe.
Types and
they have to be emissions controlled and things like that. So they may not have as much power as dirt bikes because of that. They may not sound as loud and stuff, but a lot of times they'll have, similar suspension setup, similar protection, and engine being in the cradle versus part of the support. They'll come with like the bash plate and things like that, the beefy suspension.
Yeah.
But then also on dual sports, you have like some of the conveniences like push button start versus a Kickstarter, which some motocross bikes and some dirt bikes still.
Oh, they still use that.
Some of them still come with a Kickstarter. I don't know if any of the ones sold here in the US do, but or like older bikes.
See, I'm learning. I didn't think. I thought that was a thing of the past.
They'll have
except for like the old ones.
They'll have a Kickstarter, and obviously on dual sports, you get headlights, blinkers, tail light, things like that, because legally you're required to have those. Maybe you'll even get like a speedometer and a fuel gauge and gear indicator and stuff.
Yeah, but it's always. Oh, sorry. You can finish.
I was basically, but yeah, you're right. They're basically kind of derived from dirt bikes.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's a dirt bike, but you can take it on the road.
Yeah,
it's always seemed like a dual sport is like what a real adventurer takes, to get lost in the woods and like adventure on. It's like, because adventure bikes, like, okay, yeah, our bikes can do that, a lot of that stuff, but because they're heavy, it's like, sure, they can do it, but can we do it?
I can't do it.
I couldn't do it.
No,
and so having something lighter, I think, would be more confidence inspiring to try more things. Yeah. It's also not a $15,000 bike.
Yeah, but also if you're inexperienced, I mean, I've seen people take like Tigers or even the big GSs and stuff of some crazy things that I wouldn't even like think of doing.
Right? They're in the minority, for sure.
Yeah, and they know very well. They know their bike in and out. They know how to handle it. They know how it handles very well.
And I would wager, that those guys that can do all that stuff on those big bikes probably do it on dirt bikes.
They probably started out on dirt bikes.
Yeah,
and they do say like one of the biggest benefits of learning how to ride dirt, and this is for you that primarily ride street and stuff. And I've never tried it, so I can't speak from personal experience, but from what I've heard others say is that if you get good at riding dirt, there's a lot of skills that you can apply from that to riding on the street
for your riding skills.
For your riding skills, especially when it comes to controlling your bike, especially in things like emergency situations. Like, let's say you're taking a corner and you hit some gravel, so you can like keep your bike upright because you know how to shift your body to keep the bike from falling over. Or if you need to like swerve, or your tire locks up and things like that.
Or even just it can help you remain calm. If it's like, okay, now you're hitting something loose and wet or something, and you're just like, okay, well, I know
know how to counteract that basically. And that's where a lot of like the skills kind of transfer over to
because my first time riding in rain, that was a little terrifying, and nothing happened, but I was just like
yeah, it is absolutely terrifying.
Things are different.
Things are very different. You can kind of feel like you don't feel like it's confident in the rain.
Yeah.
Especially with like the noise and the water like splashing on your helmet and stuff like that. It's not the most fun experience. Today, motocross is basically the season lasts from May till August, the primary season, and it's separated into 12 races, and it's often referred to as nationals or the outdoors. And basically and each class competes in two motors or races, and the winner is based on the placement in both. So whoever you get points, whoever comes in first, second, third, you get X amount of points, and then at the end of the championship, like as it goes on, the winner of the championship is the person with the most points and things like that. And one of the last points is that Edison Dye, he passed away in 2007, but in 1999 he was inducted into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame and kind of recognized for being involved in like helping bring motocross to the United States.
It's like regardless of like the discrepancies in the articles about him, like he is a notable figure.
He is a very notable figure, and who knows if maybe he didn't bring the Huskies over, who like it may not have been as big of a sport as it is now, but it is now enjoyed by like thousands of people around the country in different events, and from like I said, from local to national level events, and anything in between. He also was given the Motocross Lifetime Achievement Award in 1999 as well.
Oh, cool.
So, that's kind of like that's most of the notes I have. I don't know if you have anything else
I wanted to
add.
ask is like we can look at some of the pictures that we've had in these articles, and it's like dirt bikes, like aesthetics, and same with dual sports, they haven't really changed.
No, like look at one of the most popular dual sports right now is the DRZ. Was it 450 or DRZ 600? Like from
I think 450.
From Suzuki, and that's a carbureted motorcycle. In the modern day, which is almost like impossible to find nowadays, and that thing had basically the same design for the past 30 years or so. It's got square headlight in the front.
It's only had minor changes.
Basic round blinkers, carburetor, a choke because it's carbureted. Actually, the DRZ, so they do have a 650.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And the only reason I remember that is because that's the bike that I got my 650 endorsement on. And this is the craziest thing. If I probably mentioned this in one of our earlier episodes when we talked about our LSF experience, but I learned on a little Suzuki van, which is kind of a little bit dual sporty as well. It's got a fat back tire and a very thin front tire, and it's they're spoked and they're kind of knobby, so it can kind of go through
like a classic cafe style, more
right? Kind of, but it's also very similar to like the Yamaha, the TW200. They're kind of like tractor of a bike. Like that very fat off-road like tire in the back. So it's kind of a similar bike. But this bike was low to the ground. It was just like your standard looking motorcycle. But then they threw me on to a DRZ 650 for the
650 bit.
for the higher level endorsement, and that was intimidating because tilting that tall of a bike is scary when you're a brand new rider and never touched a motorcycle before. I'm more used to it now because my tire is probably just almost the same height. But no, I remember like that bike. I don't remember too much about it because it was a while ago. But I just remember it being very intimidating.
But I was bringing that up because it's like, because we look at like the adventure bikes and how they're advertised and marketed, and like we were sold on them. You know? I guess I don't see a point like in why you'd have to really update the aesthetics of a dirt bike because it's very useful. It's like it's slimmed down, it's minimalist for its aesthetics, and and that's just how they look. Like people want that plastic and that everything from there. But you think on something like a dual sport, this is just a thought I had, is like you'd think somebody could take a dual sport and like change the aesthetic to like make it look more like classic or adventure-y and not so much like a dirt bike. You know what I mean?
I mean, probably, but I think doing that would also kind of be a little counterproductive because then you're probably adding more weight, you're adding more complexity to it, you're adding more parts that can break, And I think the key selling point, the key appeal of dual sport bikes is the fact that they are simple.
Yeah.
They're basic. They're easy to work on. The engine is wide open and open. Most of them don't even come with like crash bars or anything like that because they're just plastic.
Yeah.
And they're narrow. So if you fall and you got good hand guards on it, most of the time that will just hold the bike up off the ground on its own.
Yeah.
And they don't need like all this extra protection, all this extra weight. So I think the key appeal of them is the weight, being lightweight, simple and easy to work on. The engine's very accessible and also durable, or at least easy to fix and replace parts. So I think that's why they're kind of keeping them very
that makes
very
sense.
basic and as basic as they are.
I was thinking more of like, I could see like, people like us, even if there was like a quote unquote like a sexy dual sport. I
mean, I'm sure you can kind of like put in some
work,
some work in the aesthetics and stuff, but I don't think a bike like that really needs to look good. And some of
basically what I'm saying is like, there should be a dual sport that could look good enough to just take to a coffee shop with the GSs.
That's true, yeah. But I was going to mention but they do have some like variations of dual sport bikes. Like for example, the Honda, the CFR 300, like their dirt bike.
Oh yeah.
So they have that. It's a CRF or CFR, one of those two. I can't remember. Whatever the one Itchy Boots rides.
Okay. Yeah.
So they have like the CRF 300, and that's like the dual sport. It's got the boxy headlight, very stripped down there. But then they also have the CFR 300 Rally, and that's got more fairings on it. That's got like bigger headlight on it, windscreen and things like that. So it's a little more adventure ready. Yeah. So I think they could do something like that to add like a bit more to it, but it's also heavier. It did make the bike heavier and stuff.
Sure.
Because it was more for long distance riding versus quick jaunts down to the trailhead.
Yeah.
One of the fun things though, I kind of forgot to mention this, that read in the Red Bull article, is that motorsport was considered basically like a party sport. So all these events, like the motocross events and stuff, they were basically like one giant party with not only the races going on, but camaraderie and people like hanging out, sharing stories, drinking and things like that. And that was a big thing during the golden era in the 1970s, basically through the 90s, where it was very it kind of really fit into that era of like punk rock and things like that, just being this
rowdy,
like balls to the wall rowdy kind of event. And I feel like that still kind of translates into now.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially if you're in a rural area.
And a couple of more notable names here, like Travis Pastrana and James Bubba Stewart Jr. Basically they rose to the top in the 80s and 90s, and they've kind of like inspired a lot of a new legion of racers here, according to Red Bull. And just things like that. So there's a lot of notable figures. Obviously we can't like cover every single one of them, and every little detail, but there are it's a pretty extensive sport, and it's been in the US for over 100 years now, so it's pretty cool.
It's here to stay.
It's here to stay. Oh, definitely.
I would love to actually go see like a race. I think that'd be a good time, but I kind of remembered the other part of my thought, like with aesthetics to bikes. It's like, okay, so they came from the UK with their scrambles, so that was like the cafe race style. It's like you're racing across dirt on your bike to get to the cafe the fastest, so it's like, it seems like the cafe is its own subset now of just road bike, of a look, you know what I mean?
A
style. So it's like
even like a lot of modern like scrambler bikes and stuff, they kind of tell like, okay, you can take this off road, but they're not really like quite made for like your like bike like yours is definitely an exception and stuff, but you have like the Ducati Scrambler, you got the Triumph Scrambler 900, you got like the R9T Scrambler. They don't really have like the tall suspension, the protection, the engine guards and stuff like that for true like scrambling or off-road riding. other than like a few like fire roads and stuff.
Right.
But you're not going to be doing jumps in those.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, and this is just my like pipe dream. It'd be cool to have like a cool looking like cafe dirt bike.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah, it
so
wouldn't be
instead of
bad.
like the molded plastic like faired tank, it's like make it like a round cafe style plastic tank.
Yeah,
you know, and like
something like that.
I think that'd be pretty cool looking. You know,
Yeah.
it's like because you kind of bring back like a little bit of like the true cafe activities.
Yeah,
but have that look to it. You know, because like a cafe bike now.
Cool.
You're not taking a cafe bike like off road, really.
No.
You know, that's a style, a look. You know, like again, like with my Scrambler. You know,
Yeah.
You know, again, the Scrambler 1200 did compete in the Mexican Baja race, like, and completed it against a bunch of dirt bikes. But again, that's a big bike that a really ballsy man took in. You know, so that was just like a weird thought I had. I don't know if anyone else like would like to see more like a cafe inspired dirt bike.
or more stylish dirt bike.
Yeah, more
dual
stylish.
sport.
Yeah, more flashy. Not so much
Yeah.
like the plastic, like utilitarian. Like
Yeah.
and it's not like there's anything wrong with that. That's just like my personal. Like,
No, yeah. So
I
let us know.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email what you think.
Yeah,
You think about Mitch's thoughts. But I think that pretty much covers pretty much all we had to talk about. And as always, like, let us know what you think. And if you do motocross yourself, share with us your experience.
I'm sure we got something wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got a thing or two wrong. And this is kind of like our first. This is kind of like a little bit of a trial run, also on kind of like these kinds of episodes where we talk more about like the history of things involving motorcycles. It's just a topic
That we're not familiar with.
Yeah, that we're not
ourselves.
familiar with. So this is something that we talked about like doing in future episodes. So let us know what you think of like us covering the histories of different things. We think it'd be kind of cool to cover other aspects of motorcycling history. Yeah, and you also have a little bit here about Triumph.
Oh yeah, about their racing. Yeah, but what they wanted to get into basically. Excuse me, man. Let me just find that. Oh yeah, this bit here. So Triumph Motorcycles will enter the Monster Energy AMA Supercross World Championship at the start of 2024. So we'll have to look forward to that.
And that kind of goes in line with the bike, with them and that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so they're
cool.
if you're on their, if you look on their YouTube page, they're going to start slowly putting out videos of the bike. That, like we mentioned, the chassis at the beginning. So they're having their own in-house factory race team, support team, I think they said on there. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And
I'm very much looking forward to that.
No, and it looks like Triumph has some big plans to enter that world. So I think they're going to be eyeing a lot of markets. Like out here in Utah, there's a ton of dirt bikes.
Oh, yeah.
There's more dirt bikes.
Especially down in Moab and stuff.
You know, so I think if you're in an area where dirt bikes are popular, I'm willing. I would guess that Triumph's probably like eyeballing that market to bring you whatever this bike's going to be.
So Triumph, if you're listening to this, invite us to do something. I don't know.
Hint, hint.
Call our people. We are people.
Yeah.
We are people.
We are the people.
And if you guys, let us know if you have any predictions and stuff for what a Triumph motocross bike might look like. Let us know. But if you do have motocross experience and you do participate in like races or just do it for fun, feel free to reach us out. I would love to hear about your experience.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's really all I have, I guess. Other than that, you can contact us on Instagram or by email. And again, if you if there's some motorcycle stuff you've been meaning to buy or would like to buy, if you use our link, it'll help support the channel at no extra cost to you. Yeah, so basically it'll just give us a little kickback. Yeah. So. And also feel free to follow me on Instagram at Gleb Lapham. Yeah. And I'm Meets to the Beach on Instagram. And as always, you can follow the podcast itself on Instagram and Threads at tdtmotorcycles. And also feel free to email us your thoughts and feedback, suggestions, anything like that at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much again for listening. We're past 10 episodes. We're at 11 episodes, baby. Keep on rolling. November will be a year. Yeah, we'll have a year, so we'll have to do something special for that, hopefully. But really, thank you for everything and getting us this far. And thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next episode.